After his death, the man named Isara Iuri Kyora Eri finds himself standing before a divine being. The god informs him that he's been chosen for reincarnation into another world. Still confused, Ayuri listens as the god cheerfully encourages him to celebrate his selection. He recalls his past life, passing away at 37 after a long battle with illness. Though uncertain, he learns that the gods send chosen souls to other worlds to act as reincarnators, granting them special powers for their missions. Trying to make sense of it, Ayuri carefully sums up the situation in his mind. The goddess explains how reincarnators are regularly sent to various worlds. She tells him that the gods allow them to choose their abilities before being sent off. When Ayuri asks if she'll listen to his wishes for his abilities, she happily agrees. As she lists off possible choices like overwhelming power or a charm skill, Ayuri shakes his head. He asks instead to learn non-combat magic and skills for living. Smiling, the goddess agrees without hesitation. Ayuri, relieved, expresses his dream to live a quiet, self-sufficient life. Ayuri's requests continue, surprising the goddess as he lists more than 10 specific wishes. He asks for life skill magic, a peaceful land with no people, and the ability to survive independently. The goddess hesitates, wondering if he's being too demanding. After confirming that he's not a bad person, she agrees to grant his requests. Ayuri clenches his fist with determination. The goddess blesses him with the powers he wished for and enough strength to survive. As his vision fills with light, Ayuri feels hope returning to his heart. He steps forward with resolve. His second life is about to begin. In his new world, Ayuri's peaceful start doesn't last long. A gigantic boar, larger than a car, suddenly charges at him. Startled and terrified, Ayuri runs for his life, screaming in panic. The massive beast crashes through the forest, relentless in pursuit. As Ayuri flees, he can only shout in disbelief at the size and speed of the creature. His new life has just begun, but it's already far more dangerous than he ever imagined. Ayuri runs through the forest, panicking as a large beast chases him. He curses his bad luck, lamenting that his second life might end just as it began. Desperately, he remembers the god's suggestion to escape to an abandoned village. Suddenly, he recalls a skill he received, stealth. Excited, he tries to activate it, but quickly realizes he doesn't know how. The monster closes in as Ayuri screams in frustration, unsure how to use his new ability. Still running, Ayuri pleads for his skill to activate, shouting random commands like unleash and deploy. Miraculously, his body starts to shimmer and vanish. The monster skids to a stop, confused and unable to sense him anymore. Hidden and panting nearby, Ayuri realizes the skill actually worked, leaving the beast bewildered and searching in vain. Ayuri peeks from the bushes and celebrates his escape, amazed at how completely the stealth skill hides him. Relieved, he notes how much younger his body feels, like that of an elementary schooler. After catching his breath, he's grateful for his healthy body and laughs off how terrifying the encounter was. Now safe, Ayuri decides to check his status. Mimicking what he's seen in reincarnation stories, he moves his hands and summons a glowing status board. Fascinated, he observes how it resembles a video game interface. Reading his profile, he learns his name is Ayuri Sarai, and his new body is 7 years old. He muses that, from the god's perspective, his age must have been a small detail. Ayuri scrolls through his skill list and happily finds everything he asked for. Appraisal, magic, and various abilities, all at decent levels. Proud of his bold negotiations with the god, he plans to use magic for both survival and comfort, even without modern conveniences. Though eager to try everything, he decides to move carefully using his stealth skill again, not wanting monsters to find him. But as he speaks, dark silhouettes of creatures seem to close in around him. As Ayuri walks through the forest, he grips a small knife in hand, worrying about running into monsters again. Though he's managed to escape before, he knows that next time luck might not save him. His magic isn't meant for combat, and his only weapon is a simple work knife. Not exactly ideal for self-defense. Still, he reminds himself that sometimes you just can't avoid danger, so he needs to be prepared for the worst. Just as he steels himself, a low growl echoes nearby, and Ayuri freezes, eyes wide, body tense. His stomach growls just as loudly as the monster's earlier one, and he realizes the noise came from hunger, not danger this time. Laughing nervously, Ayuri admits he's starving. He pulls a few berries from his pouch, unimpressed with his meager meal. While eating, he lists off the things he needs to do: practice magic, find food, deal with monsters, and secure a safe place to sleep. The list feels endless, and he sighs, realizing how tough this new life already is. Then through the trees, something catches his eye: a small cluster of buildings in the distance. He steps closer, brushing aside the grass. "Oh, this is," he mutters in surprise. Ahead lies what looks like an abandoned village. Iyuri stands at the entrance of the village, eyes wide with awe. "An abandoned village," he says softly. The place is quiet and empty, the buildings weathered but still standing. It's just like what the god mentioned, a place away from people, open and full of space to farm and live in peace. Excited, he realizes this could be his new home. "Whoa, that god is amazing," he says, grinning. There's already a building he can use and plenty of room to start over. Determined, Iyuri decides to explore and see what he can fix up. As he walks deeper into the village, he examines the rundown houses. "Looks like it's been abandoned for quite a while," he notes. One building is practically collapsing, but a smaller one nearby seems in better shape. He reminds himself of the basics of survival: clothing, food, and shelter. And since his clothes are fine for now, securing shelter is next on the list. Spotting the sturdy-looking house, Iyuri's face brightens. "This house looks nice," he says, running toward it eagerly. Peering inside, Ayuri inspects the structure. The damage isn't too bad, just some broken boards and gaps in the walls. "A simple fix should do the trick," he says confidently. In his mind, he pictures the place restored: a small, fenced-off area with crops, a water well, and a cozy home at the center. It's a perfect, defensible spot, right in the middle of the village, easy to maintain and expand. He nods in satisfaction. "All right, I guess we've pretty much covered everything here," he says proudly. But then his stomach grumbles again, reminding him of the next challenge. With a sigh, he adds, "All that's left is to eat. I guess I'll have to hunt." Still, despite the hunger and exhaustion, Iyuri smiles. His new life in another world is finally starting to take shape. Iyuri finds a patch of overgrown crops and excitedly exclaims that he's discovered potatoes and wheat. He realizes that the crops once cultivated by villagers have survived in the wild. Inspired, he plans to clear the weeds and expand the field for future growth. However, Ayuri hesitates, worrying that the plants might be poisonous. After a moment's thought, he remembers he has a skill for times like this, the appraisal skill, and pokes at the crops to test it. Iyuri activates his appraisal skill, which beeps and processes the crops before completing the analysis. His skill list appears, showing several abilities including Appraisal Lovanbish. The results reveal that the potatoes and wheat are both edible and suitable for cultivation. Delighted, Iyuri celebrates how useful the skill is. He debates whether to plant or eat the remaining wheat, but worries that planting all of it would leave none for food. Unsure of how much time has passed since the village disappeared, he decides to think carefully about his next steps. Iyuri recalls seeing a video about trapping pigeons using wheat or rice as bait. Inspired, he decides to try something similar with small birds. He sets up simple traps while scattering grains on the ground. Curious birds start gathering, pecking at the seeds as Ayuri observes from behind a post. He notes that if the birds get used to the feeding spot, catching them later will be easier. As he checks his skill list again, he suddenly remembers something important he'd forgotten. Ayuri contemplates using magic for efficiency, noting that even basic fire or wind spells could handle simple tasks quickly. Just then, a mysterious voice urgently warns, "Watch out!" Startled, Ayuri looks around, unsure if someone is nearby. The warning repeats, louder this time, and before Ayuri can react, the ground trembles. Something massive is approaching fast. A gigantic boar bursts onto the scene, snorting heavily and glaring at Ayuri. The sudden whoosh of its breath fills the air as Ayuri stumbles back, recognizing the creature as a dangerous beast. Realizing it must have followed his scent, Ayuri braces himself, muttering in shock, "Did you track me by my scent?" as the enormous boar prepares to charge. The enormous boar charges through the ruins, smashing everything in its path. Ayuri barely dodges the impact, tumbling backward with a terrified scream. Acting quickly, he activates his stealth skill, vanishing from sight just as the beast crashes past him. Hidden behind the debris, he gasps for breath. "That was close. What should I do? Run again?" he mutters, realizing the creature's strength is beyond what he expected. Ayuri watches as the raging boar crashes into walls and buildings without reason. "He's just hitting everything at random," he exclaims in disbelief. The monster's sheer power shakes the entire area, leaving Ayuri pressed against the wall, frozen between fear and frustration. He knows that if the destruction continues, there won't be anything left of the village he just began to rebuild. Determined, Ayuri peeks out from his hiding spot. "Stop!" he yells instinctively, though his voice is drowned out by the chaos. The thought hits him. If he runs now, he'll lose everything, but doubt creeps in. Even if I make it out of this, where am I going to live? Can I really stop them with just the minimum power I have? Clenching his fist, Ayuri curses under his breath. That won't work. There's no way I can handle something like that. Yet despite his fear, he refuses to give up. Night begins to fall. Glowing eyes emerge from the shadows, other creatures lurking in the wilderness. Ayuri realizes running would only bring more danger. It's dangerous to move recklessly in an unfamiliar world, he thinks. He glances at the boar, now snorting and pawing at the ground. He'll just chase me again even if I run. We're both just trying to survive. A quiet resolve forms within him. We're rivals battling for our home, Ayuri decides. Then planting his foot firmly, he shouts, "Let's fight!" The boar growls, lowering its tusks in preparation to charge. Ayuri stands tall, despite the trembling in his legs. Memories flash through his mind, the life he left behind, and the freedom he sought in this new world. "I've always dreamed of living free in nature," he recalls, "but I can't do that without facing it head-on." His determination hardens. "If that's the case, I'll take care of things myself. Living freely means taking responsibility for everything about yourself." He clenches his fists, eyes blazing. "I've decided I'm going to live in this other world. Like I'm going to stumble over something like this." Ayuri charges forward with determination, flames igniting in his hand. He shouts, "Take this," and unleashes his attack, calling out, "Fire Magic Level 1." The spell blasts forward with explosive force, engulfing the monstrous boar in a massive burst of fire. The fire magic explodes on impact, creating a towering pillar of flame that shakes the ground. Ayuri looks on, unimpressed by the destruction. With a calm expression, he mutters, "Humph, how trivial." Then, turning away, he adds coolly, "Something like that." But what just happened was just an imagination of Ayuri coming from desperation of being helplessness. Later, Ayuri crouches behind a cart, exhausted. "At least my stealth hid me right away," he sighs. He laments his weak abilities, comparing his life to a typical reincarnation story where he should already be overpowered. Looking over his skill list, Ayuri realizes his powers are minimal, with most of his magic at level 1. Still, he notes that his concealment skill is surprisingly strong, capable of hiding him even from a boar's sharp nose. "No, these are the spells that God gave me," he reminds himself. Ayuri clenches his fist and decides to trust in his abilities. "All right, I'll try believing in the power I was given," he says. Sitting in concentration, he channels his energy. A small flame flickers within him. "This burning deep inside my body, I can do this," he declares. With confidence, he thrusts his hand forward, shouting, "Take this! Fire Magic Level 1! A small spark pops from his hand and immediately fizzles out. Ayuri stares at it blankly as the tiny ember lands on the ground and goes out with a soft sizzle. Confused, he murmurs, "Huh?" watching as smoke rises weakly from the dirt. Ayuri stares at the smoldering ground where his fire spell fizzled out. "Was that my full power? No way," he mutters, disbelief sinking in. Trying to reassure himself, he mumbles, "It's just my first time. That's why it didn't work well." But before he can recover, a loud snort echoes. The massive boar, its eyes burning with fury, locks onto him. Iyuri freezes. The boar glares at him and begins to sway, preparing another charge. Panicking, Iyuri throws up his hands. It noticed me! Other magic, quick! He tries again. Wind magic, level 1. But nothing happens. Desperate, he shouts, Wood magic, level 1! A small sprout pops out on the boar's head. The beast doesn't even flinch. The boar stomps forward furiously. Iyuri clenches his fists, trembling. Ch! There's gotta be a way. He braces himself, summoning everything he's got. How about this? Earth magic, level 3! The ground rumbles beneath them, shaking violently, as a massive wall of earth shoots upward between him and the charging beast. Ah, a wall of earth! Iyuri gasps in relief. Maybe this could actually work. Is it because the level's higher? With this, maybe at least... But the boar snarls behind the wall, its rage undiminished. With a deafening crash, the boar smashes through the wall, scattering stone and dust everywhere. It broke through, Iyuri cries out, so even an earth wall won't hold it. But then, the beast grinds to a halt. Its shoulders wedge awkwardly into the hole it created. Iyuri blinks. Huh? The boar thrashes, unable to move. Realization dawns on Iyuri. It's stuck in the hole it made. This is my chance! Iyuri steadies himself, drawing the short blade from his waist. Shing! The metal glints in the light. If I can't attack with magic, Wasaye, he whispers, then I've only got one option left. He recalls what he'd seen before, hunters going for their prey's throat. Even wild hunters go for it, the vital spot that brings prey down instantly. Clutching his blade tight, Iyuri glares at the trapped beast. In its current state, I can hit there. This is my only chance. Iyuri's hands shake as he steps closer. I'm scared. Can these trembling hands really do it? He thinks. Heart pounding, he hesitates, but then remembers his vow. If I fail, the one who dies is me. Gritting his teeth, he grips the hilt tighter. Even so, I decided I'll live on in this world. With a sharp inhale, he yells, That's what I swore! He dashes forward and drives his blade into the boar's throat. Yeah! The cry echoes as the monster thrashes violently, the earth wall cracking around them. Iyuri stands before a massive boar he just defeated, surprised at how easy it was. As smoke rises from the ground, he looks at the enormous beast, wondering what to do with it now. Iyuri recalls something he read in a novel about how to process game meat, hanging it upside down to drain blood or cooling it in water. Realizing he can't manage that with such a huge creature, he sighs that he'd need a river for it. Suddenly, a mysterious voice calls out, asking if he's in trouble. Recognizing it as the same voice that warned him earlier, Iyuri looks around, demanding the speaker to reveal themselves. The voice tells Iyuri to look around. He turns and sees two birds flying nearby. Shocked, he realizes the voice belongs to them. The birds are surprised too, amazed that a human can understand their words, something they've never seen before. Iyuri checks his skill list and realizes this is due to his language mastery skill. It's so powerful that he can even communicate with animals, not just people. Reflecting, Iyuri thinks he couldn't talk with the boar because neither of them wanted to communicate. The birds offer to show him a good spot by the river, and Iyuri happily agrees, though he admits it feels a bit weird talking to animals. The birds direct Iyuri toward a nearby river, saying it's pretty big. Grateful, Iyuri thanks them for their help. Curious, he asks why they're helping him. The birds explain it's repayment for the wheat he had given them before. Iyuri smiles, realizing their kindness is payback for his earlier act of generosity. Iyuri waves goodbye to the birds as they take off into the sky. Relieved, he sighs in gratitude, thankful he hadn't hunted them earlier. Turning back to the giant boar, he tries to move it but finds it completely immovable. Though the river is nearby, he realizes he can't carry the massive beast with his own strength. After a moment of thought, an idea strikes him. Iyuri remembers he has a storage skill, one he had requested specifically so he could carry large amounts of items easily, like in a game. Checking his skill list, he finds it and recalls the steps. Touch the object, then activate the storage icon. He presses his hand against the boar and calls out, Store! Instantly, a large sphere of light envelops the creature, and with a flash, the giant boar vanishes into storage. Iyuri stares at the floating storage screen, amazed. The space is in another dimension where time doesn't pass, so nothing ever rots. Even with that massive boar stored inside, there's still plenty of room left. Excited, Iyuri grins and calls it an awesome, almost cheat-like skill. Feeling energized, he decides to hurry to the river, but just in case, he activates his concealment skill before heading out. At the river, Iyuri begins processing the boar. It's tough work, but he manages to remove the organs and wash them clean using the water. He groans about not rolling his clothes up high enough as they get soaked. Using water magic, he drains the blood into the river and finally collapses to rest, exhausted. Wondering if his fatigue comes from magic use, he sits down by the riverside and opens his menu to check his status. Iyuri's status screen appears, showing moderate stats. Magic power 100, vitality 80, strength 30, defense 20. He notes that they seem like minimum values and realizes he's already used half his magic. However, unbeknownst to him, the beast he defeated was actually a formidable monster that even skilled warriors struggled with. His abilities, especially his magic, are already far beyond average. Yet Iyuri remains unaware, thinking he's still weak. Satisfied with his progress, Iyuri checks the meat. The appraisal skill confirms it's safe, with no infections or parasites. Pleased to have at least one meal's worth, he smiles and muses about exploring the area next, wondering if there might even be a legendary sword nearby. Iyuri uses earth magic to build an improvised stove, noting that it's clumsy but functional. He then uses fire magic to ignite the kindling, creating a campfire. Proud of his setup, he remarks that not burning the ground directly is basic camper etiquette, even though he's never gone camping before. With the fire ready, Iyuri prepares to grill his meal. Iyuri gazes at the hearty piece of meat he's about to cook, something he hasn't eaten in years due to being hospitalized. His excitement builds as he remembers holding back on eating proper food until now, surviving only on potatoes and wheat. He decides that his first real meal in this new world will be this meat, thrilled by the thought of tasting something so wonderful. With anticipation, he takes a huge bite, ready to enjoy the fruit of his efforts. Iyuri starts eating, slowly chewing and savoring every bite. Then, overwhelmed by the taste, he bursts out shouting, "So good!" The nearby animals, a bird, a bear, and a deer, look on in surprise. He marvels at the flavor, amazed that even without any seasoning, the meat tastes incredible. There's no gamey smell, it's tender, juicy, and full of wild flavor. Iyuri enjoys every bite, feeling joy and satisfaction. After finishing his meal, Iyuri sits back with a happy sigh, feeling fulfilled. He thinks about how since coming to this world, he hadn't truly felt alive until now. Smiling, he realizes that he's genuinely living again. With his hunger satisfied, he decides to prepare a place to sleep before sunset. The food problem is solved for now, and he feels content. Iyuri begins drawing a plan on the ground using a stick. He tells himself he needs to make sure he won't be attacked by beasts or bandits while he sleeps. Determined, he sketches out a layout for walls and a gate, planning to strengthen his base defenses next. On his to-do list, both secure shelter and procure food are marked as clear, while strengthen base defenses is newly added as his next goal. Iyuri decides to build a wall, though he quickly realizes it's easier said than done. He considers different options, dismantling an abandoned house for wood, stacking stones like a fortress wall, but dismisses each idea as too time-consuming or impractical. Without tools or nails, none of these plans would be sturdy enough. Eventually, he concludes there's only one viable way left. Iyuri thinks that using earth magic might be the fastest solution to build the wall. Though he worries it might not be strong enough since a boar broke through before, he decides to practice refining his magic. He experiments with removing pebbles and impurities from the soil to make it sturdier. After some practice, he proudly observes his results. 3 clay pots of varying quality, realizing he's starting to understand how to control his magic better. Iyuri examines his work, noting that his first creation was terrible, but the latest one has a smooth surface. He taps it and realizes it's surprisingly hard, almost like stone. Without even firing it, the material has become strong, more like magically created stoneware than ordinary pottery. Emboldened, Ayuri refines his technique. He digs up the soil using earth magic, removes stones and roots, and kneads it thoroughly. Comparing it to pottery, he knows that preparation is key to quality results. With determination written on his face, he carefully shapes the soil into a massive wall. Once it's complete, he proudly admires his creation, a tall, smooth, and solid barrier standing strong. Iyuri measures his wall, about 5 meters wide, 3 meters tall, and as thick as a door. Satisfied, he concludes that it's strong enough to withstand attacks. Deciding to build 3 more, he surrounds the house completely. Once finished, he gazes at his handiwork in awe. The house is now encased within sturdy walls. Smiling, Iyuri declares proudly, "This is his fortress." Iyuri stands within his newly built walls, feeling the heavy silence settle around him. The walls are tall, seamless, too seamless. A bead of sweat rolls down his cheek as the realization dawns. "Did I just build a prison?" he mutters under his breath, staring blankly at the structure meant to protect him. The pressure of the enclosure feels oddly suffocating. With a weary sigh, he glances toward the darkening sky. "Anyway, it's getting late," he says to himself, convincing his tired body to stop working. He had used up nearly all his magic and didn't even have enough left to make a door. For now, he'd just store a section of the wall when he needed to step out. That would have to do until he recovered. As twilight deepens, Ayuri's mind turns to a problem he can't ignore any longer: water. "Drinking water," he murmurs, realizing he's delayed something essential. Fetching water from the river every day wasn't sustainable. Fortunately, he remembers spotting a well nearby while exploring the village ruins. Pushing through the overgrown grass, he approaches it with cautious hope. "If I can use this, I won't have to keep fetching water," he muses, brushing off the moss-covered stones as he lifts the creaking wooden lid. The well looks old but intact. Perhaps his luck hadn't completely run out. Iyuri peers into the darkness of the well. It's too deep to see the bottom. "Guess I'll drop a pebble," he decides, letting one fall and listening closely. A faint plop echoes upward. Water. Relief flickers across his face. Looking around, he notices remnants of a broken pulley system beside the well. "So they used one of these," he says thoughtfully, inspecting the damaged beams. "No rope, no bucket. How am I supposed to draw it up?" His gaze lingers on the water below, already planning his next move. Realizing the only way is through magic, Ayuri sighs. "I didn't really want to use any more magic today, but necessity wins over exhaustion." He stretches his hand forward, concentrating. "Picture water floating in outer space," he mutters, channeling his focus into precision. Ripples form, then a sphere of water rises gently from the depths, glimmering in the light. "All right, I did it," he exclaims, eyes wide with joy. The orb hovers before him, crystal clear. He expected murky water, but it's surprisingly clean. Another small miracle in his long day. An appraisal confirms it. No harmful substances, no bacteria. "Still, maybe I should boil it just to be safe," Ayuri says, watching the floating sphere with satisfaction. With a deep exhale, he slumps onto a nearby log, fatigue finally catching up to him. What a crazy first day in another world. The sun has dipped low, painting the sky in pale orange. It's early, but he's too drained to continue. The house remains uncleaned, and there's no bed to speak of. "Guess I'll make a makeshift one from leaves," he decides, gathering large ones to form a simple pile. As the night settles in, Iyuri looks over his surroundings, thinking about everything he still needs to do. Fixing the house, adding more walls, preparing a field, and even building a toilet. He realizes there's still a mountain of work ahead, but smiles confidently, finding it exciting. For the first time in a long while, Ayuri feels genuinely eager for the next day. Now that he can build things however he wants, he's filled with energy and can't sit still from excitement. The next morning, Iyuri wakes up in discomfort. His body aches from sleeping poorly. He realizes he didn't use enough leaves for bedding and couldn't block the cold or hard ground. Determined, he decides to turn the boar hide he obtained into a blanket, declaring that a comfortable bed is essential for living well. However, he hesitates, unsure if he can even process hides on his own. Iyuri opens his skill list to check for any help. Among his various magic skills, he finds his unique skill, Countryside Living Guide. Remembering that it's designed to help with rural life, he feels relieved. He remarks that reincarnators possess special abilities like this, and the status board itself counts as one. Feeling thankful for the generous bonus, he prepares to put the skill to use. Using the Countryside Living Guide, Iyuri searches for the boar hide tanning method. The system provides step-by-step instructions. He follows them carefully, first skinning the hide, then cleaning off the dirt. Iyuri works hard wiping the hide and noting that it should be enough for a blanket. Next, he scrapes off the fat with a knife, huffing and puffing from the effort but pushing through. Continuing to read the guide, Iyuri learns that to make the tanning solution, he needs water, alum, and salt, items he doesn't have. Worse, the process takes 1 to 2 weeks. Shocked and defeated, he realizes it's not something he can finish right away. With a sigh, he decides to just use more leaves for his bedding for now. Kneeling in disappointment, he mutters that he's been defeated, then decides to shift focus. Next, he'll clean and repair the house. Iyuri surveys the simple structure he's found himself living in, a 1-story house divided into 3 rooms, a kitchen, a dining space, and a back room that serves as both a bedroom and living area. The floors are all dirt, and there aren't any usable tools at all. Still, he assesses the space thoughtfully, trying to understand its layout and potential. He muses that the villagers probably slept on mats, but since he's used to sleeping on a bed, it just doesn't feel quite right. After a night's rest, he feels his mana restored and eagerly decides to start on some DIY repairs. Using his earth magic, the one he's most confident in, Iyuri remodels the house into a raised floor design. The new flooring feels solid, almost like concrete, and far more comfortable than dirt, though it makes the air feel a bit chillier. For the kitchen hearth, he adopts a traditional Japanese style with an earthen floor. His earth magic proves remarkably useful, not only for fixing the house, but even for creating simple tableware. Without realizing it, Iyuri has developed an exceptional mastery of earth magic in this world. Once the remodeling is complete, Iyuri turns his attention to cleaning. Lacking proper tools, he uses wind magic to blow out the trash, though it ends up scattering dust everywhere, leaving him coughing through the cloud. Still, once the air clears, he admires his handiwork with satisfaction. The newly restored house gleams in the sunlight, and he smiles proudly, remarking that it's not bad at all. As the sun sets, Iyuri decides to call it a day. He gazes up at the dimming sky and thinks about what to tackle next, perhaps making a tallow candle tomorrow for light. He also notes the need to fix the toilet properly. For now, he's just been using leaves and burying the waste. Then another thought crosses his mind. He'd like to have a proper bath too. The long list of survival tasks makes him sigh, but he remains determined. The next morning, Iyuri sits quietly, tears dripping onto the floor. He's crying, the reason being something he just noticed on his status board. After absent-mindedly examining it, he realizes he's had a storage skill all along, one that lets him access an inventory. To his dismay, he discovers that it already contained food, water, potions, and even the fur he worked so hard to obtain. All this time, his supplies had been right there from the start. Devastated by his own oversight, he slumps in defeat. Among the stored items, however, something unexpected catches his eye. A letter addressed from God. The letter Iyuri received explained that the name of the world he was in was Rawoa. It was filled with divine advice, like how he should hide his unique skills and appraisal abilities when interacting with locals. However, what truly shocked Iyuri wasn't the advice, but the mention of life magic. Life magic contained various spells useful for daily living, such as Ignite, Purification, and Light. Among them, the Purification spell especially caught his attention. Realizing its potential, Iyuri was stunned and exclaimed, "I don't need to wipe my butt?" Iyuri reflected on his habits, realizing he had always been careless, even in his previous life. He compared it to how he used to skip tutorials and explanations in games, only to discover later that he had missed important features. As he cooked his food, The sizzling sound filled the air. Iyuri sighed, feeling like he had been wasting his time. Even though he was careful, he admitted he was also careless. Eating the same plain grilled meat over and over again, he thought to himself that even he was getting tired of it. Iyuri searched through the ruins of some abandoned houses, hoping to find something useful. He thought that maybe the former residents might have left behind some salt or seasonings. Grumbling, he muttered that if the gods were going to gift him things anyway, they could have at least included some spices. While searching, something caught his eye among the debris. He pulled it out and was surprised. It was a map. Holding it up, Iyuri stared in realization, whispering, "This is a map." Iyuri studies an old map he found. Though the parchment has survived well without weathering, the drawing is far too simple for him to make out any clear details. Still, one particular mark catches his attention, a cross symbol that could indicate danger, or perhaps a valuable resource. Curious, Iyuri decides to check it out himself. He ventures into the forest, carefully following the rough directions. He reasons that the village must have been built here for a good reason, and perhaps there's even treasure hidden nearby. Of course, he insists to himself he's not after riches, just curious. Either way, he won't know anything until he investigates. But soon, Iyuri reaches an overgrown area where no clear path remains. The tall grass hides everything, and he suspects this might have once been a road, long since reclaimed by nature. Going forward feels risky. There could be poisonous plants or even dangerous creatures. As he debates turning back, he suddenly remembers he has magic now. Laughing at his old-world habits, he decides to use wind magic instead of fire to avoid starting a blaze. Raising his hand, Iyuri chants confidently, "Wind Cutter!" Iyuri's wind cutter cleanly clears the tall grass, revealing the ground beneath. Amazed by the precision of his spell, he can't help but admire how effortlessly the magic works. To be safe, he activates appraisal, checking for any poisonous plants among the exposed vegetation. What he finds surprises him. Wild lilies, their shoots and bulbs edible. His eyes sparkle with excitement. "These are wild vegetables," he cheers, gathering them enthusiastically. Then, among the leaves, he spots familiar shapes. "Aren't those yams?" he mutters, delighted. Collecting more of them, he pictures his next meal, imagining the vibrant colors and flavors. Thoughts of grated yam make his mouth water. To him, this feels more precious than treasure. He recalls how wild yams in his old world were rare and difficult to dig up. Their roots long, delicate, and easily broken, often tangled deep underground, but this time he grins confidently. "I've got earth magics now." Kneeling, Iyuri channels his power. "Come on out, wild yam." The ground trembles and rumbles in response before something bursts free with a loud pop. Startled, he stares at what he's unearthed. A plump, vaguely human-shaped root. "What is this?" he whispers. He lifts it carefully. It doesn't move, nor does it seem hostile. "Doesn't look like a monster," he mutters, poking at it. It's soft, potato-like to the touch. Maybe it just grew into this odd shape by chance, he reasons, like those oddly shaped daikon radishes back home. Still uneasy, he decides to store it for later inspection. "I'll check it out carefully later," he says, activating his magic as it disappears with a faint beep. But then, something shifts. The air grows still. A faint rustle echoes behind him. Iyuri freezes, sweat beading on his forehead. A deep instinct grips him. Something is wrong. "Something's really off," he mutters, glancing around the suddenly silent forest. The uneasy feeling intensifies. Pressing on his chest, his heart races. "I've got a seriously bad feeling about this." Without another thought, Iyuri turns on his heel and bolts. "I can't stay here. Gotta get away right now." Iyuri suddenly tumbles backward onto the ground with a thud, startled and confused. What the heck is this?" he gasps as the earth trembles violently, cracks splitting the ground before him. A deep, booming sound echoes through the area. He looks around anxiously. A monster? Or maybe an attack from the locals, but I don't see anyone. Before he can finish, the rustling of leaves catches his attention. Out from the forest, a towering creature emerges, a monstrous mantis, its mandibles clicking menacingly as it growls down at him. Iyuri freezes in shock, his face paling. Hey, hey, he mutters nervously, trying to calm the situation. Gathering his courage, he raises a trembling hand. Hey there, hello, he says, forcing a shaky smile. Wait, maybe I can talk to it like with the bird. But as the mantis steps closer, its body flickers, turning invisible. A giant mantis that turns invisible? Do I really have to fight something like this too? Desperate, Iyuri tries to reason. Just a suggestion. But how about we pretend we never met here? I have no intention of fighting you. But before he can step back, the mantis lunges at him with blinding speed. Iyuri barely dodges as the creature's blade-like arm slices through the ground, sending dirt flying. Tch! It's not something I can reason with, he realizes grimly. The mantis disappears again, reappearing for another strike. Iyuri's body trembles. If I take a hit like that, I'll die instantly. Crap, it disappeared again! Then his instincts sharpen. He dodges just in time. Dodged again! This must be the perception skill, he realizes. A description flashes in his mind, a passive skill that senses the movement of surrounding creatures and objects. Iyuri steadies his breath, determination replacing fear. I only just got the hang of the feeling, but if I can use this well, he says, standing tall and ready for the next move. Iyuri steadies his breath, closing his eyes for a brief moment. The mantis remains invisible, but its presence hums through the air, faint yet unmistakable. Feel it, he murmurs to himself, focusing deeply. The tension sharpens his senses. Unlike his watery double, this creature cannot erase its form completely. He can sense it, the weight of its killing intent pressing through the mist. Then, with determination flashing in his eyes, he thrusts his palm forward. Then, the surrounding puddles ripple and rise. Gloop, blorp, slime-like masses of water gather and twist around him. The counterattack begins, Iyuri shouts. Water magic swirls to life, forming tendrils that dance and spiral under his control. Water magic isn't just about controlling liquid, he recalls. Its true essence is drawing water out of the moisture in the air. He remembers learning this from the divine message, God's letter. The air grows damp, heavy. Droplets form mid-air, coalescing into spheres that orbit him. I know it's tough, he mutters to the forming mass, but bear with it. The liquid shapes itself into a colossal watery form, a reflection of the mantis's outline captured and revealed. The towering creature growls within the water shell, its shape shimmering. I can't just kill it, Iyuri says, thinking quickly. That wouldn't be enough. If I'm going to do this, I want to make use of its materials. His eyes flick to the creature's arms. Those scythes look perfect for weapons, or farming tools. The liquid body trembles. A foul sound follows. Squelch! From the mantis's head, thick worm-like tendrils burst out, writhing and dripping slime. Iyuri stumbles back, horrified. Huh? What? Before his eyes, the mantis collapses, its body spasming as monstrous worms crawl free, thrashing toward the surface. The text of knowledge flashes in his mind. Hairworm, a parasite that uses creatures like mantises as hosts. When breeding season comes, it drives the host to water so it can return to its natural habitat underwater. Iyuri's expression twists. Otherworldly hairworm? The scene turns chaotic as the parasitic creatures slither and hiss. No way. It actually parasitized a human. Iyuri gasps when he realizes one of the forms resembles a human silhouette. Forced to defend himself, he unleashes another spell, slicing the worms apart. Slash! Slash! I had to cut it to pieces, he pants, exhausted. So I couldn't use it for materials. He stumbles forward, dizzy. Ugh, everything looks the same. I'm starting to lose my sense of direction. Holding a tattered map, he squints. I should be getting close, but then through the trees, something catches his eye. Is that? A cave looms ahead, dark, silent, and deep. A cave! This must be the marked spot. Iyuri hurries closer, peering into the shadows. Dark. Well, of course it is. He grips his hand and channels earth magic. A small stick forms from hardened soil. He wraps it with boar hide, ignites it, and smiles faintly. I'll use earth magic to make a stick, wrap it with boar hide, and there, an instant torch. Stepping inside, the flickering flame lights the rough stone walls. Looks like it was dug out by human hands, he observes quietly. But I don't see any sign of resources. The flame crackles as he walks deeper into the tunnel, unaware of what may be waiting in the darkness ahead. Iyuri peers into the dark tunnel ahead, wondering what lies beyond. Though the path seems dangerous, he decides to go as far as he can. As he carefully walks, he notes how unstable the footing is and thinks about making proper shoes someday. Moving deeper, Iyuri reflects on how he might earn money, maybe by selling gathered materials or bartering in town. Suddenly, something catches his attention. A shimmering light draws his eyes, and he gasps. Before him lies a massive glowing crystal formation. Awestruck, Iyuri marvels at the sight, believing the sparkling stalactites are a treasure in themselves. Later, he realizes they're actually enormous blocks of rock salt. Delighted, he enjoys a proper meal seasoned with real salt for the first time, savoring every bite and declaring it the absolute best. Life in this new world seems peaceful and satisfying. But just as Iyuri relaxes, strange noises echo behind him, growls and screeches from beasts nearby. Confused, he wonders what slow life was supposed to mean as he faces the danger. Then, recalling his dream, he steps forward with determination. "All right, time to farm," he declares proudly, ready to embrace his idyllic yet unpredictable new life. If I get 100 likes and 100 subscribers from this video, I'll cover the latest chapter right away.